So, hey everyone, my name is Brandon Solomon from Youth and Homeless Ministries. I've been the house father at Church House for 3 years now, and Church House is basically a transitional home, the very first transitional home of Youth, and we basically accommodate the guys that are on the program. And with me today, I have Cornel, who's actually staying with me at Church House. And it's been a journey. Cornel has been staying a couple of months now, with me at Church House, and it's been a good ride. And I know that in today's lifetime, housing is expensive. Even I myself, when searching for a home, it's very hard to find, and I can imagine how much harder it is even for guys on the street, guys on recovery, and guys wanting to change their lives. And here we have Cornel. He's experienced what it is to be at the transitional house. And before I even get into a transitional home, Cornel, I wanted to find out, what has life been like before, stepping into Church House? What was life like before stepping in?
Well, life before Church House was a little bit more, I wouldn't say structured. The correct term that I feel I want to use is more ordered. Church House holds more freedom, right? As far as my decision making is concerned, as far as my choices is concerned. Whereas before Church House, in the shelter that I lived in, was more rule orientated, that was basically like
And so now staying at Church House, which we call a transitional home, what's now your understanding of a transitional home?
Well, my understanding now from what the transitional home is that it is the move from dependence to independence. That is basically in a nutshell.
Yeah, just transitioning from where you were always dependent, they provided the food, they provided basically everything for you. Where now at Church House, there's a bit more freedom in the decision that you make. I also notice, and I'm always inspired when I see you in the mornings taking those morning jogs, and you decided that yourself. It's not a rule that has been put in place. And what else do you appreciate now being at Church House, compared to, staying in a shelter, staying, wherever you were before? What has that experience been like for you, and how has it helped you on this journey?
Well, before living in other institutions like shelters, for instance, I was exposed to elements still. There was a lot of people coming in and out and basically doing as they want to, which is the case obviously for the transitional home also. But I find that the decision making is much better now for myself and the people that I surround myself with now in the transitional home, as opposed to the ones in shelters and other institutions.
I also realizing, I think from my side, the advantage for you is that all the guys staying with you, they also on the program.
Right,
And so there's that advantage of being able to share that, exchange wisdom, in other words, and you can actually hear from the other's experience, because you're all on that same journey. Where compared to other shelters or where you came from, not everyone's on the youth program. Maybe not everybody's motivated to change, but now you're staying in a home where everyone is motivated to change. And I think that is also what's rewarding for me. I think for me to see that motivation to change. And I think you were one of those guys that I always appreciated the support that you would always give, and how helpful you were in the house. And what are some of the lessons now staying for these couple of months at Church House or at the Youth and Transitional Home? What are some of the lessons and your takeaways from this experience?
I think one of the biggest lessons that I've learned is that I need to be patient with my fellow housemates. Not all of us come from the same environments, not all of us have the same backgrounds. And for that reason, we need to be patient with each other. I believe that patience is what grows into us being a family at the end of the day. Because we grow to understand each other, we grow to learn each other's ins and outs, faults, strong points, weaknesses, and we learn to accept each other for that. And for that we need to be patient with each other.
It's almost like you're practicing for life outside of of this transitional home. Like at the end of the day, even when you move out, that's what you need. I think that's the key. It's patience with people.
Yeah.
I think that's also one thing that I've learned when I once I had my daughter, who's now 2 years old. I think that is when I learned, the ultimate lesson of patience.
Yeah.
I wonder if that is why Jesus also chose fishermen, because there was a time where myself and my wife, we were always we would go to the beach and we'd always see these fishermen outside or at the beach fishing, and sometimes they never catch fish for like hours, and they're there and they're enjoying themselves. But then there's like after hours is that moment where they just catch this one fish, and I see how this guy celebrates just after catching that one fish. And my wife then said, I wonder if that is why Jesus chose fishermen, because of their patience for fish.
Yeah.
And I feel like then after that, Jesus says, now you need to go and be fishers of men. And I feel like the same principle that fishermen have waiting to catch that fish, we need to have that same patience with people.
Definitely.
And I think even this journey for me, staying with you guys at the house, I've needed to have that patience, because like you said, everybody has these different backgrounds and people coming from different upbringings. And so you can imagine, obviously, there's going to be conflict and disagreements. And I think that is where you grow in patience and all of that. What would you say now are your next steps, going forward? What are you looking for as you take all these lessons of patience from Church House and the Youth and Transitional Home? Like, what are some of your next steps moving from the Transitional Home?
My next step would definitely to upskill myself for the work environment. Definitely to continue to upskill myself personally, which is only going to benefit myself for the future, obviously. And then to transition into my own, accommodation, which is big on my agenda, and then to have my own stable work,
I think
employment.
And that's good. I feel like this is like a training ground for anyone if you want to really grow in patience and grow in, just that experience of what it's like to stay in a home where you experience a variety and a diverse group of people. Come and stay at Church House for a while, just to experience all these different...
Just a week.
Yeah, just a week at Church House. I think that is good. I'm so inspired by your journey, and I've seen how you've grown. And I just want to know, like, as you transition, before we get there, one of the things that you mentioned that you're starting to experience now is family and belonging. Tell me more about that at the home. Besides, patience and all of that, I think it warmed my heart when you said, like, I'm experiencing what the family element is. Like, how has that been, and when did you start experiencing that?
I believe I started experiencing that when I, out of my own, decided to wake up early in the morning and do breakfast. I had to find, number one, a reason for doing it. I could have just woken up and done it, but if there wasn't a purpose behind it, then I wouldn't have had any benefit from it. So I decided to do it, and I did it so that I can serve my brothers, number one, and then obviously in turn serve my house father as well. But the main aim for me was to serve others. If I was gonna in any way try and be of service to anyone else, then that was gonna be it for me. So through that, I've learned to observe other people And through observing other people, I've made inventory of myself as well. Because obviously, if I look at other people and if I want to see faults, all I'll see is faults. But if I look at myself, though, and realizing that I also have almost similar faults to other people, then I won't be so judgmental. So once that judgment leaves, then all you can be is, patient with other people, and that is what I've been doing.
And at the end of the day, we all have some value to add, man.
Yeah.
Someone once said that you only experience value when you participate.
Yeah.
And you've decided, in your own, I actually want to make breakfast for the guys every morning.
Yeah.
And because you went in with the right mindset, you saw the value in it. And instead of giving to receive, you gave out of love.
Yeah.
And because you felt, these are my brothers, these are my family. And I think another key word besides family is also finding that belonging.
Yeah.
Because one thing I've realized also, working at Youth for now almost 5 years, I've realized that so many guys on the street, gangsterism, like that is what they're seeking.
Yeah.
They're seeking for a place to belong. They're seeking just for that assurance that I have someone that I can trust. Do you feel like that is something that you've been experiencing? And if you have, how important has that been to you?
Trust.
I
think trust is very important. Coming from a background where one doesn't trust very easily, it has been important for me to sort of like put my trust, into my fellow housemates in some form or another. But I feel mainly I've had to, put my trust into a higher power, which obviously is the one who sustains and carries me through and sees to my needs. So in some form or another, I've had to practice that trust. And obviously it has helped me.
Yeah, it's one thing to love people, but it's another thing to trust
people. Yeah.
That's another step to take. And that is something that you can also carry, through, because it's not easy to trust, especially in the society that we live in today. We stay in a society where you don't know who to trust.
Yeah.
And I feel like at church also and at our transitional homes, that is key. Firstly, a place where you can belong and a place that you can actually trust.
Yeah.
At least your house parents, maybe not always everyone in the home. I mean, there's 14 guys staying at the house.
So what I also forgot to mention is that it is probably important for you yourself to be trustworthy. There's so much emphasis on can I trust this one, that one, or the other, but are you trustworthy as a person? Speaking of myself now, so for me it is also very important to portray myself as someone that is trustworthy.
A man of integrity.
Exactly.
It starts with yourself at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because we are so quick to look at others. But why don't do that? Why don't you first do an introspection? Because sometimes people are inspired by the way you are loyal to them, and people also say respect goes a long way.
Yeah.
And I think when you become a trustworthy person, you also gain respect.
Yeah.
And I think that is what we just need to cultivate at our homes. Any last words in terms of just your experience there?
Oh wow, that's a big ask. Firstly, I've being on the streets myself. No one could make that decision for me. I had to go through what I went through by my own choices. And so I just hope and pray that whoever hears this will come to that realization that there is hope. And if you get anything from this, and I choose it to be hope. Because that little bit of hope can grow into something obviously much bigger, because that is what I started out with, was that little bit of hope, and it has grown, and I'm starting to see faith in my actions. I'm starting to see faith in my daily walk, in the way I do things, in the way I speak. So obviously, definitely is just to find that little bit of hope.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for this conversation.
Cool.
For me, it blessed me just to hear your experience at Church House. And like, I'm always, I guess, empowered when I hear guys' stories and just hear the experience, because at the end of the day, I want to do more. You know, I want to give more. And I want to also thank you for your helpfulness, you know, in the home. And I'm glad that you're starting to experience, you know, belonging and what it means to be part of a family, even though they're not biological, but what it means to have family. And I think that is so important. So yeah, I also want to thank everyone that's listening. It's been a good conversation with Cornel. There's so many more episodes to come. So yeah, like this is episode number 2.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, so many more. So stay tuned to the next Champs Corner.